I'm Ruben, and I'm the Managing Director at Smudge. Smudge is a software development firm that helps people solve problems in their business with custom software. We've created this series to help customers learn more about the software development process and the key things that set development projects up for success. In this episode, Chris Brown is talking to Devin about his background and Apple's upcoming WWDC event and what it means for both us as developers and as customers that are building solutions on the iOS platform.
Devin, welcome. It's great to have you here. Thanks for taking the time to talk with me today. First of all, maybe we just start by just talking a little bit about your background in terms of how you came to be at Smudge and the journey you've had since you joined Smudge.
Yeah, sure. So I started Smudge, I think, coming up 7 years ago. It's actually my first job out of university when I finished up a computer science degree. And so really started with only a little bit of mobile experience. And so I've kind of learnt a lot of things on the job sort of as I've gone on.
Awesome. So you're obviously really, well, I know from knowing you for a while, you're really passionate about it. Is there anything that really draws you to software development in particular?
I think for me, a lot of it's the crossover with design. Design's sort of where I started and thought that was where I was going to end up. But I've also been pretty interested in technology from the beginning. And so when I first started getting into sort of programming and things, I found that there's some nice synergy between doing design, but then also sort of bringing in the software and technology elements. And so I think that's kind of the draw for me.
Awesome. And in terms of working with our customers here, what do you feel like success looks like for you? When you go home at the end of the day, what does a successful day feel like to you?
I think for me, it's getting the feedback from the end users. We make a lot of decisions as we're building out the software, and so when we finally get it into the user's hands and hear about how it's making their day simpler, those are definitely the successful moments for me.
That's great. And we were talking about it earlier, WWDC coming up, Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference. First of all, for those who don't really know what that is, maybe could you just explain what it's all about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess most people have phones will be familiar that every so often you get a software update. Apple typically roll out their major ones on like a yearly cycle, and so WWDC is their chance to show everyone basically the new things that are coming across all their different platforms sort of later on in the year.
And am I right in saying you went last year? Did you actually go to California? You went to Apple Park?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to get one of the random tickets last year. So I went along and you get to see the session live with all the other developers, which is really cool. You kind of get the energy and the vibes off everyone. And that was where they announced Vision Pro. So there was definitely some extra enthusiasm for a new product.
Absolutely, yeah. And for someone, there is a lot of content there. I know from working as a developer in the past, there's a huge amount of content, as you said, across their platforms. For someone who's maybe watching it or following it for the first time, what would be your recommendations around how to approach all of that or where to start?
Yeah, I think a good place to start is Apple's developer website. Especially in the last few years, they've done a really good job of sort of consolidating the new information, and they usually have sort of shorter length videos that give you a quick overview of what's new in each category, and then often some then long form sort of deeper dives on the specific APIs and implementations. So it's good to kind of start with the shorter ones and find the things that you think might be interesting or useful and then kind of dive deeper from there.
Okay, that's good advice. And I know from experience as well, with some of the things that come out of WWDC, including updates to things we're using currently or new technologies or new features and so on that Apple introduce, that we work with our customers to look at what that might mean for them with our existing customers with the solutions that we're developing. How do you yourself approach that in terms of those kind of conversations around things that you've seen which we could implement to improve performance, for example, or new features you think there's a use case for a customer to consider?
Yeah, I think it's an exciting time for the ways that we might be able to help customers. Sometimes it's even things like where we might have had to build something custom previously. Now Apple's integrated that into the system, and so we can sort of leverage some of what they're bringing without having to have our own layers on top, which always is helpful in terms of things like stability and things like that. Yeah. And so I think it's a matter of going through that new content when it comes out and just keeping in mind the customers, and certain things will jump out as, oh, that would be really useful here, or we could try this here, and also just then maybe taking the sample code and creating a quick prototype that can be a good way to show the customer some potential wins they might be able to get.
Yeah, I agree. That's very effective, that approach. And since we're on the subject of Apple, I know personally and professionally you're really really into the Apple products and the ecosystem they offer. What do you love most about them?
I think it would just be, I guess, the simplicity of sort of their end solutions. Often once they finally show something, you're like, oh, of course it works that way. Why wouldn't it? But actually there's a lot of steps that it takes to get there. And so I think really appreciate that there's companies like Apple that take the time to get to those simple solutions, which aren't always obvious. And so
yeah, and I think also that resonates with us, doesn't it, here in terms of one of our core values being simplicity and looking for the simplest approach wherever we can. And just finally, sort of in terms of where you've come from and joining Smudge and your time here, what does the next 5 years sort of year or 5 years look like for you in terms of where you think your role will take you?
Yeah, I think we're in a really interesting sort of time in technology in general. There's a lot of buzzwords going around, like AI and things like that. And so I think it's just going to be really interesting to see how that plays out and where that can fit in and sort of aid us. And so, I'm kind of interested to see sort of how that will play out over the next 5 years.
Devin, thanks for your time this afternoon. It's really good to talk to you, and enjoy WWDC. It'll be really exciting to see what Apple announce. So thanks again.
Definitely. Thank you.